Good evening, viewers of Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, Welcome back and nice to have you here. Here are the news for March 29, 2021. I will read the news first, then I have some videos to share with you. Let's get started. Pro-Abiy Ahmed Oromo Liberation Front lost the bid for election participation in Ethiopia. The new organization is led by Ararso Bikila. The Ethiopian Election Board rejected the application of this organization, citing unsatisfactory quorum numbers in the General Conference held and the officers' length of service in this newly formed organization, plus other failures in fulfilling election board's requirements. The election board also refused to recognize the leaderships presented for this newly formed Oromo Liberation Front. Mr. Ararso Bikila, Mr. Kajela Merdasa, and others in this group jeopardized the Oromo's causes at this critical point for their own political and other personal gains. They are isolated, rejected, and hated by most freedom-loving Oromos at home and abroad. Receiving rejection notice from election board, at least for now, is another intoxication for their evil intent. They should have tolerated everything for the sake of all Oromos suffering under Abiy Ahmed's military command post, federal police, Oromia police, local militia, and prosperity cadres intimidation, atrocities, and other human rights violations. So they supported by Abiy Ahmed, even they allowed the headquarters of OLF to be used for their conference, but fortunately the Oromos are the winner for this time. The election board rejected them. That is a disgrace for them, for hijacking the Oromos cause for their own benefit. There may be a difference in the on the issues they should have discussed within, or bring to the Oromos in general, resolve their issues and come to one objective. The objective all fought for many years. So they just trying to get in and get seat in the future parliament, but they were not successful at this time, thanks to the election board, at least as the facts are telling. But it's, they should feel ashamed for creating all these obstacles for the causes of Oromos instead of resolving the issue through dialogue and reconciliation. Okay. The United States demanded Ethiopia declare unilateral ceasefire in Tigray region. President Joe Biden's envoy, Senator Chris Coons, and his team addressed this and other serious concerns to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. But the Prime Minister rejected the call for ceasefire and vowed to continue his atrocities and war crimes on Tigray people under the pretext of law and order operations. The war already caused the loss of thousands and thousands of civilian lives and unimaginable damage to properties. Several credible accusations were made against the Ethiopian government militia, defense forces, and Eritrean defense forces America's call for ceasefire makes sense to avoid the continuation of these criminal acts against the Tigrayan people in the future. Such hopes are dead for now, thanks to Abiy Ahmed and his supporters' dream of winning this war by extending armed conflict. So, ceasefire asked, demanded by the American government, but Abiy Ahmed told the senator, the ceasefire is not necessary, we're going to continue the war and we're going to defeat TPLF. So he decided to continue the war. But I don't know how we're going to win, we'll see. Mekelle Mayor survived an assassination attempt. Mr. Ataklt Haile Selassie is assigned to administer Mekelle, capital city of Tigray, by Prosperity Party. He was targeted by unknown attackers at the hotel he was having lunch. According to the report, the hotel security guard saved the mayor's life by sacrificing himself. Nobody took responsibility for this attack. Winning the hearts and minds of population and governing them will not be quick like winning major military conflict. Abiy Ahmed and his supporters created a hole in Tigray which cannot be sealed for generations. They may be assumed the war will be quick, within 2 weeks, and the Tigray will be stable and the Prosperity Party will be in control of everything, and the prosperity will be arriving for Tigrayans. That was a dream, but I don't think it's happening. I don't think it will happen. These Tigrayan peoples, they are very determined people, but I know Abiy Ahmed worked with them since he was 15. Maybe he misunderstood them. These people are determined. They will not be under the control of PP or the Amara. They will not be. And this war will continue. The resistance will continue. And no winners for a long, long time in that region. Tigray Media House satellite TV is blocked in Ethiopia. Tigray Media House, or TMH, has been the main source of communication for TPLF and its supporters. The Ethiopian government, in cooperation with some international players, successfully blocked TMH satellite TV from reaching its Ethiopian audience for now. OMN, Dimtse Weyane or DW, and the Tigray online media satellites were taken off from the air by Abiy Ahmed's operatives in the past. All these acts are an attempt on part of Abiy Ahmed to control the voice of independent journalists in Ethiopia. But TMH radio service is still available. TPLF, Tigray People's Liberation Front, repeatedly carried out such similar conduct against OMN, Isad TV, and other media during their times in leadership positions in Ethiopia. Everything is upside down for TPLF and its supporters under Abiy Ahmed controlled Ethiopia. Nobody knows what will be the payback for Abiy Ahmed and his supporters when the power shifts in a similar situations in the future. So this is the character of dictators. They want to control the media, the information, the truths about what happened in Tigray or somewhere else. So they are happy to take off the media, those media opposing their policies, opposing the facts. So Abiy Ahmed is trying the same thing the TPLF did during their dominance in Ethiopian politics. Ethiopians and the global community deserve apologies for misleading information and lies. The following Prosperity Party officials must offer apologies for lying to Ethiopians and the global communities. They knowingly or purposely and repeatedly provided false accounts about the war casualties, war atrocities, and about the presence of Eritrean defense forces despite the availability of several credible evidences. They must be forced to apologize before they are allowed to speak to any media again. If they refuse to do so, Ethiopians and the global community must demand their removal from their posts, from their government posts. Ethiopians must not allow untrustworthy individuals to govern them and their nation. The following Prosperity Party members are some of the officials must be forced to apologize. They are, starts with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed. He repeatedly lied on the stage, on the parliament and other medias about the casualties. He said the war was over without single civilian death. That was totally false. And the casualties about the presence of Eritreans, he lied repeatedly. The other one is Ambassador Dina Mufti. If you remember, this guy is a foreign, secretary, like he's briefing all the media, all different medias about the war, about border issues with Sudan and all international issues. So he also part of the group lie. He must also apologize. The other one is Diakon Daniel Kubrat. If you listen to his interview, also he lied about the presence of Eritrean soldiers. This guy is very, according to the information, he's a very religious person. He got so many followers in Orthodox Christians, and I know it's shame to lie, but he did for some reason. So he should also apologize for for his followers and for the Ethiopian people plus the global community. Uh, if he did purposely or not, he should apologize. That's a big lie. That's a big lie and confirmed by so many global media, satellites, plus the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed himself. He confirmed it even though it came late. So this guy, especially, it's shame for a religious guy to act like politicians or lie like politicians. So he should apologize. He should apologize for lying for his followers and others. The other one is also Mr. Sadiq Abraha. This guy, if you listen to his interview about the uh, uh, control of the Tigray region, he said Ethiopian security forces control every inch of the Tigray. Tigray is stable. And about Eritrea, he said he confirmed more than 1,000% with full confidence. That's a lie. So Ethiopians must demand uh, from this guy and also Brigadier General Brahanu Jula and plus other military and civilian officials. So the Ethiopian people and the global community must demand apologies from their leaders. Otherwise, they will keep lying to you and they will keep you know, ignore you, lie to you, twist the facts. So you should demand the truthfulness from these officers before they come next time, before they talk. Ask them, please, can you apologize for what you did, what you said before about the war, about the Eritreans' presence? Ask Dina Mufti, the media. The media must ask them before he goes to he continue his lie. So we should demand truthfulness from our leaders. Don't allow them to lie to you and to the global community. The security guard of Ethiopian Peace Minister, Mr. Muforiat Kamil, has been killed by unknown assassins in Tigray region. The second security guard abducted by attackers and taken to unknown location. Mr. Muforiat Kamil flew to Addis Ababa after visiting the region, and her security guards were using the NGO market vehicle to conduct their duties. Using humanitarian vehicles for their unintended duties is illegal, and it can endanger the lives of humanitarian employees and can impact their life-saving operations. The name of the security guard killed in this attack is Gazai Legese. So far, nobody claimed responsibility for this ambush. So, Ethiopian government using NGO vehicles to conduct its business. That's very, very serious crime. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. As I said, it could endanger humanitarian employees and it could endanger humanitarian operations in the future. So they must, the Ethiopian government must stop using NGO vehicles. Myanmar pro-democracy protesters desperately deserve an international intervention. Sanctions and tough warnings against Myanmar military are not working. Violence against peaceful protesters is becoming dangerous and taking too many lives. Hundreds are dying in a single day, and the unknown number of protesters have suffered multiple injuries. Thousands and thousands of civilians are fleeing every day to Thailand and other neighborhood countries. The situations became dire and it requires urgent, tough international intervention to save lives and that nation from collapsing. The United Nations Security Council must stand up to its duty and save Myanmar citizens from becoming the victim of the military junta and the country from becoming a failed state. So the situation is, becoming worse from day to day. So the global community must act before things become out of control. I know China and Russia are resisting the intervention, but they have to think again. People are dying, people are injuring, and too many destruction and chaos in Myanmar. So we need international intervention to change the situation on the ground. And the military should give up. They cannot win in such a way by killing, by causing bloodshed. Negotiate with the civilians authority and settle the situation instead of becoming aggressive and keep killing your own citizens. So that is the reading part. Thank you for taking the time, and let's share some videos for today. Here we go, 6, 7. Okay, let's see. Let me do a thing. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I apologize for technical issues again. There you go. Now it looks good.
We have a news alert coming in at this point. In what is believed to be the biggest condemnation of the Myanmar military, the defense chiefs from 12 leading democracies have now issued a joint statement condemning the deadly use of force by Myanmar security forces against the unarmed protesters or civilians. The United States and its defense allies released a joint statement slamming Myanmar's military for losing its credibility with the people. The statement has been signed by the chiefs of defense from Australia, Canada, Denmark, Germany, and 8 other countries. Diplomats from these countries have already condemned the bloodshed, making the statement largely symbolic. The defense chiefs of the 12 nations have urged the Myanmar military to follow international standards of conduct. They have reminded the junta that the military is, and I quote, responsible for protecting, not harming, the people that it serves. The joint statement is a rare declaration by the most senior military commanders from countries around the world, including in Asia and Europe. The collective joint action against Myanmar military comes as a result of the brutal crackdown from authorities which led to the bloodiest day so far, which was Saturday. Hundreds were killed and injured, while thousands still remain detained or arrested. The United Nations, meanwhile, has said that it has received reports of scores of killings, including that of children in Myanmar, in what it said was shocking violence by the country's military against protesters. It has confirmed that hundreds were injured and mass arrests took place across 40 locations.
It has been just a bloody day again. Today, as the military generals celebrate the deaths of the people of Myanmar. And today, it's much more higher than 15 people. I have been on the phone today, and now I'm on the phone with people on the ground. They are determined to kill as many as people as possible.
The embassies of the European Union and the United Kingdom have also condemned the killing of unarmed civilians. In a statement, the EU embassy in Yangon said that the 76th Myanmar Armed Forces Day will stay engraved as a day of terror and dishonor. Britain also condemned the killings and said that the security forces have, and I quote, disgraced themselves by shooting unarmed civilians. The Myanmar military, on the other hand, continues to shrug off all international condemnation. Beyond World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.
This event is for people that want to get into real estate.
It wasn't just, here's how to flip a house. It's here's how to have a successful business.
It will change your life, and it'll put you on the right track.
I was able to buy and renovate 10 properties in just 1 year while still working a full-time job.
That I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to get out of that rat race, and I have.
I'm Van Merrill, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. Over the past 14 years, I've bought and sold hundreds of properties, built a large portfolio of rental properties, and become a self-made multi-millionaire because I created a system that allows me to get very predictable and profitable results. Real estate has completely changed my life, and for the past decade, I've been able to share that passion through our live training events. These events have helped thousands of regular, everyday people get started investing in real estate the right way, which has allowed them to make more money and live with more passion and purpose.
We were real estate agents, and while we made a living at it, we weren't passionate about it. Well, we went to the event. It really gave us the confidence to do a wholesale deal. We put it under contract with a 30-day close, found a cash buyer. We had no money out of our pocket.
So we were definitely hooked after that, because what you said really works.
One question I get from people is, Van, I know your system works, but don't you need money to get into real estate? The beautiful thing is, it doesn't have to be your own money. And when you register for my free class, I'm going to immediately send you a free digital copy of my Money Resource Guide, which reveals what the 7 sources are that you can use to invest in real estate without using.
As the Tigrayan protesters in Washington, D.C.
First of all, we're very grateful for everything that Biden has done so far.
sending Senator Coons to Ethiopia has already started to make a difference in terms of the truth coming out about the atrocities and who's committing them in the state of Tigray. So we desperately need the U.S. government to continue to step up, sanction Ethiopia, sanction people who are responsible for this, and help us save our families. We're starting our protest here because this lobbying firm was hired by the Ethiopian government to lie to U.S. lawmakers and try and get them on their side. So we want to make a statement that there's not enough money to be able to tell the lies. We'll be here to uncover those and tell the truth for our families. Okay, you're watching the stream on this episode, Who and What is Causing Serious Ethnic Conflicts in Ethiopia. I have hosted this show long enough to know that Ethiopians are astute analysts. Use our YouTube comment section, be part of the program. You are very much part of this discussion.
The increasing violence in Ethiopia, particularly in Western Oromia, as well as in Tigray, poses significant risks for civilians. First of all, as more and more people begin to organize along ethnic lines and mobilize accordingly, this poses risks that what has thus far been somewhat contained episodes of violence will start to spread throughout the country. Second of all, as Ethiopia approaches general elections, potentially later this year, the overall political instability combined with the uncertainty of how elections will run opens up the potentiality for a much worsening situation when it comes to this type of violence.
One comment, your comments are very welcome. You can do so on Twitter and on YouTube. I have to let you know that every single time we have a conversation about Ethiopia, we do ask the government to participate. We asked them again, we reached out, we had absolutely no response. But I am very happy to introduce you to our three guests, Zacharias, Awol, and Tewodros. Good to have you here on the stream. Welcome back to all of you three gentlemen. Zacharias, introduce yourself, reintroduce yourself, tell our stream audience who you are, what you do.
It's nice to see you again, Femi. So I'm Zacharias Zelalem. I'm a freelance journalist and contributor to Al Jazeera and The Telegraph and other outlets.
Good to have you. Hello, Awol. Reintroduce yourself to our audience. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Awol Alu. I am a senior lecturer in law at Keele University in the UK. I'm also a political analyst for the Horn of Africa, focusing on Ethiopia.
Thank you for being on the stream. And Tewodros, good to have you back on the stream. Remind our audience who you are and what you do.
Femi, thank you for having me on. My name is Tewodros Terfe. I'm the chairman of Amara Association of America. We are an advocacy group here in the United States. We work with the United States government to inform them on policy towards Ethiopia, and also with international human rights organizations to make them aware of any human rights atrocities that are being committed in Ethiopia, primarily against Amaras, but also across other groups as well.
Tewodros, the focus of a lot of the news coverage out of Ethiopia is on conflict, atrocities happening in the northern part of the country, or reports of atrocities happening in the northern part of the country. But you are concerned about what's happening in the west part of Ethiopia. In March, what have you heard about? What have you seen?
Well, Femi, I really appreciate you bringing attention to this humanitarian crisis that has received very little attention from the international human rights community and the broader Western media. Unfortunately, what we are seeing in the western part of the country is an alarming increase in the targeted attacks against Amaras by the Oromo Liberation Army, which is in armed conflict with the Ethiopian government, and Gumuz militias. in the first 3 months of 2021 alone, over 250 Amaras have been massacred by the Oromo Liberation Army, and hundreds of thousands have been displaced from the Oromia region, Meteko zone of the Benshangul Gumuz region, and now even in the Amara region. So if I can just point out to a few of these attacks, in the latest violence that occurred that started on March 19th and lasted almost a week, the Oromo Liberation Army made their way all the way to the Amara region, the North Shua zone of the Amara region, and began to indiscriminately shoot at civilians, which lasted almost a week. Over 100 were killed, thousands wounded, lots of damage to property. The Ethiopian military had to come in to respond to this violence because the Amara regional forces were overwhelmed. Earlier this month, on March 6th, the Oromo Liberation Army raided a village while the Amaras were having church service. They killed the priest. They abducted 30 Amaras to the bushes, killed 24. This was followed up again on March 9th when the Oromo Liberation Army killed 25 Amaras in the same area. On March 13th, a dozen were killed. And so this has been ongoing, and really there's no serious attempt by the federal government and the Oromia regional government or the Benshangul Gumuz regional government to halt these attacks against vulnerable innocent people in these regions.
Let me just go to Zacharias. Zacharias, I'm just looking at a story that you wrote where you were trying to get in touch with some of the victims. Have a look here on my laptop. Worsening violence in Western Ethiopia, forcing civilians to flee. What is the context in which we can understand better what Tewodros is explaining? Why would civilians be being attacked right now? Zacharias, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess what we've seen play out over the course of the past few weeks and months, some of the massacres that Tewodros referred to, they're the result of something like 2 years worth of deteriorating tensions and a worsening security situation since the launch of a military crackdown in the area by the Ethiopian army to uproot elements of the Oromo Liberation Army. However, it's led to what started with what was initially a low-scale insurgency has developed into a humanitarian disaster, perhaps not something that's on the same scale as what we are seeing in Tigray over the course of the past few months. However, it is of a scale that is not to be neglected, and we've seen the different factions of the war carry out gross human rights violations that have been verified by the likes of Amnesty International. And then, of course, when it comes to the protection of civilians, we are seeing time and time again those whose mandate it is to protect civilian populations, such as regional security forces or the federal army, have chosen to or have displayed an inability to perform their duties. So it has led to mass displacement. I'm not able to verify the statistics for the Wallagga region. However, easily into the thousands may have been displaced between February and March alone, and with no concrete solution yet to amend ties between the different factions. The situation may yet be exacerbated.
Oh, I want to play a comment to you because this is analysis from our broader community online. And come off the back of this, react immediately. You don't have to agree with it, but I'm interested in your take. Let's have a listen.
Ethiopia at this moment, the Amhara ethnic group are murdered violently. There is a genocide going on in Meteko, Wallagga, and Dadaye. This genocide is carried out by extremist OLF group, and the government of Ethiopia keeps silent. Amharas are killed every day. This genocide has to stop, and the UN has to intervene and stop this genocide. Please, 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 the people can't wait anymore.
I think, I think there is no doubt that Ethiopia over the last 2 years has become a scene of utter mayhem, and civilians have become the casualties as a result of the violence that we see up and down the country. But I think it's important to remember that the violence that we see today actually started in Western Oromia and Southern Oromia in 2019 as things politically changed in the country. The nature of the violence changed. Yes, Amhara civilians have been targeted in certain areas, but there is absolutely no indication from the evidence that I have seen that they were targeted simply on account of being Amharas, let alone that there is an Amhara genocide that is going on. Genocide means, you have to have the intent to bring about the extermination of that particular group in whole or in part in order for this to constitute an act of genocide. But I think it's important to kind of situate the debate in Ethiopia in its broader context and understand what is actually driving this violence. What you have in Ethiopia is two contrasting visions of the future. And this vision resulting into a major violence. Let me finish. So on the one hand, what you have is a vision that wants to centralize the Ethiopian state and dismantle the current multinational federal system that exists in the country. And this vision is primarily promoted by the Prime Minister and the majority of the Amhara ethnic group, including those who do not support the Prime Minister. On the other hand,
I'm going to give you one more sentence because we can't do lectures. We have to have a conversation. Sorry. Finish the thought, but finish it swiftly. Go ahead.
I think the point I'm trying to make is that the violence that we see here in Ethiopia is a manifestation of these clashes of conflicts, clashes of vision of the future between the various groups in Ethiopia. But in terms of the allegations that have been made that there is a genocide going on against Amhara,
a different vision for Ethiopia. That is why you think there is violence happening. Teodros, go ahead, please.
Sure. Thank you, Femi. A few things here real quick. Number one, it is, I think it's undeniable that Amharas are being targeted by the Oromo Liberation Army. And also in Metekel by the Gumuz militias. In February, the Gumuz regional government finally admitted that senior level government officials were complicit in supporting the Gumuz militias in attacking and targeting Amharas, Agaus, and those Ethiopians that they consider as settlers, non-native to the region. And we believe the same thing is happening in the Oromia region. Tens of thousands of Amharas have been displaced from the Oromia region because they are being targeted.
All right, this is a good point.
Yes.
This is a good point for me to bring in. I'm just going to show you this. This is a statement that was sent to Al Jazeera, and also it was inspired by a piece that Zacharias wrote, and they responded, the Oromo Liberation Army responded. So this is the piece that you're seeing. I want to actually put it up on screen so you can see the video there of it. And then we actually spoke to them in more detail, and this is what they told the stream. Have a look, have a listen.
An independent body has to be given an access to areas alleged and or less beyond ready to cooperate for investigation. Ethiopia is collapsing while the world is looking for a wrong medicine to save the country when it's too little too late. Failing to accept the realities as the cause of Ethiopia's demise today is a deliberate marginalization of the Oromo mass and distorting a century-long quest for self-determination of the Oromo nation and other oppressed nationalities in the country will result into an inevitable disintegration of those independent states. Today, neither Abiy Ahmed's deception nor international community's foul cry will save the plight of the nations of Ethiopia. Situations on the ground are far from what the world is observing on the TV screens. Things are out of control, and an unlawfully declared state of emergency in almost all parts of the country solved nothing. then it's today a sign of proof that shows Ethiopia is a failed state.
Yeah, it's a failed
Zacharias,
state.
Ethiopia
That's right.
is a failed state. It also, I find disturbing that nobody ever admits to any of the atrocities. Nobody admits to them. Zacharias, go ahead.
Well, I'll leave the characterizations perhaps to the legal experts and those who are more fit to comment on those things, like Awel. However, it goes without question that there's been a lack of accountability and massive failures by both the regional and the federal judicial systems to hold those who are behind some of the heinous crimes against ethnic Amharas and other populations in the area for reasons that go beyond logic. So something like 50 people, for instance, killed over the course of February and March, mostly in the Horogoduru district of Oromia. And the governor there, Mr. Bekele Dechasa, he made no mention of the victims. He did not even issue a statement of condolences via his multiple communications pages. What it has done is systematically normalize such violence. And with the violence, with the killings of something like 50 people normalized, I mean, you can only feel pessimistic about where the country as a whole is leading. So, in that sense, you can definitely point to spectacular failures by multiple parties.
So gentlemen, I am going to go to YouTube. There is so much to talk about on YouTube, and I'm going to ask you to be fast and swift and quick. All of the same word. I'm overemphasizing it because I need you to be speedy. No long debates here. Umar, the increasing violence in Ethiopia is linked to the political failures of the transition. Awal, thoughts? Go ahead.
I think that is precisely the point I was making earlier when I talked about contrasting visions of the future. You have the Prime Minister who came to power on the back of primarily the struggle of the Oromo people. And once he has consolidated power, he essentially betrayed the Oromo national question, including people who have worked so hard with him to bring about the change. And now this Prime Minister is trying to single-handedly impose his own personal vision of the future, and that is what is driving the violence that we're talking about.
No, I think I have to respond here. Thank you, Femi. So the Prime Minister Abiy is not trying to have a unitary form of government, as Awal is alluding to. If anything, it's vastly different. He allowed the Sidama ethnic group to vote for their own referendum. Their own regional state. In addition, allow me to finish, please.
So I hear the debate. I'm moving on with more of our YouTube comments because we have so many Ethiopians who want to talk to you. And I should also say, I just want to reiterate, we invited the Ethiopian government to be part of this program. They chose not to engage with us on this occasion. Let me put this one to you, Zacharias. This is from Belata B. Thank you. Ethiopia won't go in deep ethnic conflict like we saw in Rwanda. Those vulture politicians like to see that so as to take their share of the brutally torn apart Ethiopia. So basically they're saying there's not going to be an Ethiopia like there was a Rwanda, not expecting that level of conflict. Zacharias, what an awful thing to even talk about as an Ethiopian. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, well, it's still speculation, so obviously I wouldn't comment on that specifically, but I think the saddest part of all is the fact that it's political jostling amongst the representatives and the elites of various political factions that has led to the worsening of tensions, and yet it's the innocent people who have no role whatsoever in that political jostling that are paying the price with their lives and with their livelihoods. Scores of ethnic Amhara farmers being slaughtered in various parts of the country. They had no role in whatever Abiy or representatives of various Amhara or Oromo organizations said in various communiques or on various platforms, and yet the colossal loss of life that they are forced to shoulder is unbearable. It's something that should scar us as a society. And yet, as a society, we're focused more on trivial bickering, and that has also prevented us from really dealing with the situation, dealing with what should be key to the conversation, the massive loss of life. So whether or not the political issues that divide Ethiopians get solved or not, it seems that we can look at a future where we'll see more instances of mass slaughter of innocent people for no good reason whatsoever. So in that sense, I guess you might be able to make some comparisons to, well, Rwanda, I guess, if that's what the commentator said.
Right. On March the 9th, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed talked to the African Union about what was happening in Ethiopia, primarily talking about the northern part of Ethiopia. I want you to see part of this statement because it's really relevant to what we're talking about right now in terms of ethnic conflicts and the problems that are happening all through Ethiopia. These are some of the issues that jumped out at us, and the idea the Prime Minister is saying that Ethiopia is still in transition. There's still a lot of work to be done. I am just wondering here, gentlemen, how do you get out of this situation where we have Amhara civilians being targeted, that there is an ongoing conflict between the Oromo Liberation Army and the government, in Tigray and the government, there is another conflict there. All of these spots where people are being killed, atrocities are happening. How do you get out of that? Teodros, thoughts?
Well, first, Temi, we must have sympathy and empathy for these victims. As Zacharias was alluding to, they're not part of this political. Political wrangling, and so that's the first thing. And make the protection of the civilians a priority. We need leadership from Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to work with the nonviolent political actors, civil society, and religious leaders to move us away from this targeted ethnic attacks against innocent people and from this ethnic division that we have and this ethnic system that pits ethnic groups against one another to a system where all Ethiopians are equal, where all Ethiopians are not second-class citizens because some Ethiopians are not second-class citizens if they live outside of their so-called ethnic regions. And that's what we have right now. And so that's really what we need is real leadership and empathy and sympathy and a plan and a vision to get us away from this ethnic-based system that has divided the Ethiopian people. And this is a system that was really forced on the Ethiopian people by the TPLF regime. The TPLF is gone. This system should go along with them.
There is a lot of support, gentlemen. Excuse me, Awal. There's a lot of support, gentlemen, for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. There's a lot of opposition to him as well. I want you to hear a voice who's pretty optimistic about how Ethiopia can get out of this. Awal, then you can comment off the back of that. Let's have a listen.
The ultimate goal of OLF and TPLF is creating chaos in Ethiopia by inflicting ethnic conflict between the two biggest ethnic groups, Amhara and Oromo. Actually, they're thinking that the best strategy to weaken Ethiopia is the weakening of the Amharas. Even though it's very difficult, if Prime Minister Abiy takes serious measures on his party officials, I'm optimistic that he will be able to retake over the situation very soon.
Optimism in this conversation. Do you have optimism, Awal? Go ahead.
No, I don't. I can tell you, Femi, that today in Ethiopia, the stench of disintegration is in the air, and it is so thick that anyone with a very basic understanding of politics in Ethiopia can actually smell it. Who today can look Tigrayans in the eye after all the atrocities, after Eritrean forces were allowed to come into Ethiopia, violate civilians, violate the honor and dignity of Tigrayan mothers and women, would look Tigrayan in the eye and say their future lies with Ethiopia. This war, like the other wars that we are talking about, was about imposing a particular vision of the future on the Ethiopian people, the kind of vision that Tedros is talking about, which is the kind of post-ethnic system. You cannot have a post-ethnic system in Ethiopia because that means a return to the past. And that past was a system in which a single culture, a single language, a single religion dominated Ethiopia. And consolidating Ethiopia around an Amhara cultural core would only lead to further violence and chaos in Ethiopia. So the best way, I think, for everyone is to take stock of where we are at the moment and try to find a way forward. A national dialogue could provide a pathway towards the future, but in the final analysis, the question of what kind of society we should have in Ethiopia should be decided by the Ethiopian people, not by a prime minister and not by a single ethnic group.
And Femi, please allow me to interject real quick. First, let's all understand that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is an Oromo. So when everyone alludes to this is what Amaras want, Amaras are very proud of the diverse ethnic heritage and culture of Ethiopia. And we want an Ethiopia where all Ethiopians are equal regardless of where they live in the country. That's not what we have right now. We have a situation where if you do not live in your ethnic region, you are a second-class citizen. And that's what we have, and that's why these people are vulnerable and they're easy targets for these armed groups. And so we do need a national dialogue, but we need a national dialogue with the non-violent actors.
If you will.
And those armed groups that are being violent and targeting vulnerable people, they need to be held accountable and brought to justice.
Tewodros, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, well, thank you, Zacharias. Thank you. Every time we have a conversation about Ethiopia, there is so much more to be said on YouTube. In your hundreds waiting to comment, thank you so much. I only managed to do a little bit and bring a little bit of what you had to say into this conversation, but I know our conversation will continue. Thanks for watching this episode of The Stream. See you next time.
Okay, thank you Al Jazeera for paying attention most of the time on Ethiopia. So you got Dr. Awol against two talking about the whole situation in Ethiopia, but the two guys talking about Amara being the victim in that country, they don't mention the Oromos, the Wollo Oromos killed. The Hatay city, which was fabricated, which they put blame on OLF, even though the representatives from that area blamed the Amara militia. So the two are a little bit biased for their cause, which is, the Amara sovereignty, creating Amara sovereignty after TPLF. That's why the chaos and the destruction and the Abiy, yes, he is Oromo, but his mentality is, I think, is Amara. His mentality, the way he's re-establishing the old system, creating the Menelik power, the Menelik brigade. So yes, some people may deny his Oromo-ness, but he is Oromo, but the mentality is not Oromo. So thank you again. It's a wide discussion. It's a long video. You can take break, come back and watch it. It's interesting to know what's happening in Ethiopia and around the globe. Thank you for coming back and sharing the time with Concerned Citizens Media. I appreciate you for subscribing to my video, sharing my video, and liking it, and sharing it with friends and family, so we can be the voice for the voiceless, so we can stand for democracy, justice, equality, freedom in Ethiopia. Thank you, so long, and see you again, everyone.